Okay, today we are going to examine ETC-AI's power supply challenge. We're going to look at the full-wave rectifier, and we're going to troubleshoot that with a voltmeter. As always, before getting into this, jump in and look at the measurement practice with no circuit faults before you actually try the challenge itself. So let's go ahead and click on that and look at what we have. Very important to pay attention to your specifications, as they're going to help you make some decisions about what is wrong in here. Know what your voltage regulator output is supposed to be, and know what your secondary center tap voltage is supposed to be. So on this particular one here, we have a 20 volt center tap voltage, which means between the taps I should have 10 volts on each of the taps there, and my voltage regulator should be 7 volts. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here. The module is looking for efficiency in approaching the problem, and how do you efficiently tackle the challenge in terms of problem solving here. So what they do is, and I thought I could click on the score there, maybe we'll do that at the end. I don't know why it is not allowing me to click between these, but either way, you click on the score. What they will tell you is that for every click or movement of the probe, they're going to deduct a point. You start out with 13 points, and in theory, they're looking for you to be as efficient as possible with 3 or less clicks. And to do it that way does involve some educational guessing, and that's something that you need to keep in mind as you go through this challenge. But it is possible, although highest score I have gotten is a 99. I have found situations that the practical side of me, if this was a real power supply, for my safety, I am going to make that extra measurement just to be certain of something. Whereas, I might have had a gut feeling it's a component, and I guess, and I take a guess here to save a point rather than to sacrifice a point with a click. I always like to think safety in mind, and keeping that in mind, I might make that extra click to be certain of something. So as we proceed here, a good strategy is to start with an AC sense, and to look on either, you can look at the center tap side or you can look at the primary side. I'm going to start here on the center tap side. Now, I don't have a voltage, which means that my problem lies either in the transformer or one of these components over here. So I'm going to move to the primary side. I still don't have a voltage, meaning it's either my fuse or my switch. So in 3 clicks, I find out it's the switch that's the problem. Okay, now I could have started on the primary and then in 2 clicks found out that. So that's part of the gamble you take here. The switch is the problem because this is 0 and it's not my input voltage. So I'm going to go ahead and say the switch is my issue. If this was good, I would be reading 110, 115, 120 volts somewhere in there, but that's not the case. So we're going to grade that selection, and we'll start out with 10 points. Looking at our next problem, start with the AC sense here. Again, I like to either start with the primary or the secondary. Let's go on the primary side here. So here we see a good voltage coming in, so we'll go to the secondary side. I see a good, my specs here are a center tap of 22, and I'm almost at 11 on a split, so I got a good output here. So usually my 3rd click will be the voltage regulator, and I go to a DC sense. Let's look at the output side of my voltage regulator. Okay, and I see 4 volts. My output is supposed to be 5 volts. I'm below what my output is supposed to be. So what that tells me is that I'm getting a lot of ripple that's not being cleaned up by the capacitor. So my capacitor is going to be my issue, because remember, this is giving me a DC voltage output, and that the ripple that's not being picked up by or cleaned up by the capacitor there leads me to a lower output voltage. So capacitor is what we're going to say, and we're right. We're not in a deficit yet. And go on to our next one. Again, in AC sense, we'll start here with the center tap. Okay, here's a situation where I got a good center tap output, 24 volts, looking good right there. Let's go to a DC sense, take a look at the output of the voltage regulator. Okay, and I got 8 volts at the voltage regulator. All right, so this is a diode problem because this power supply will function with one diode. It will be a half-wave rectifier instead of a full-wave rectifier. And when it functions with one diode, it's still going to give me 8 volts at the output. So now it's a matter of figuring out which diode it is. And certainly I could take an educational guess, but if I guess a component wrong, I lose 5 points. Or I'm going to take 2 points and I can double check one of these diodes. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's pick a diode 2 there, and we're going to run the ohm meter on it. Diode 2 is good, so my problem had to be diode 1. So we're going to say here diode 1 is the problem, and let's go grade that selection. We were right there. Okay, I did lose, and I'm in deficit now because I took 2 points to use that ohm meter, but it was safer than me guessing and losing a possibility of 5 points. So take my next power supply, start an AC sense. Again, we'll start with the secondary side. Okay, and I got 8 volts on the secondary, or 8.5 out of an 18 volt center tap. Let's see what our DC output is. It should be 6. We'll see what we got. Okay, we got 4. Now notice the fluctuation here, 4.8. Again, it's a situation where we've got a lot of ripple. It's not being cleaned up by our capacitor. So capacitor is my issue, and I'm going to grade the selection. Okay, we were able to regain there just in 2 moves, which helped us. Let's see where we go. We're going to start with an AC sense. We'll start on the center tap again, this side. Okay, I got a good 10 volt output, a good center tap there. Let's go to a DC sense. Look over here. Okay, and over here I have 3 volts on the output. I'm supposed to have 5. It's my capacitor again. And grade that selection. Okay, remember the capacitor's job is to clean out the ripple, and if the ripple still exists, then we're going to have some problems. So AC sense. Let's start the center tap. Okay, we got a good output there on the center tap. Let's go to a DC sense. Let's look at our voltage regulator. Okay, now voltage regulator could be the problem here. I've got 0 volts there, and it's a strong guess of mine that is a problem. However, if I had 0 volts over on the transformer, then I'd have a problem upstream. But I didn't. I'm going to make this guess. It's a voltage regulator. Would I check something further? It wouldn't have hurt to go and double check my diodes, but since I had a center tap voltage and I have 2 diodes here, I know that at least one of them was going to allow to pass through, so I would have had some kind of voltage coming out on this side. And so in this case, it is the voltage regulator. The voltage regulator has an open in it, and it's not allowing it to work. So we were able to gain 2 points there by making that educated guess. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. Start with an AC sense. We're going to go to the center tap side. On the center tap side, I've got a good voltage there. Now let's take a DC sense. Look at my regulator output. Okay, regulator is bad here, and so we will see that again, that the regulator is bad. Grade that selection. Okay, and now I'm a 3-point gain here. My next power supply, let's take a look at it. AC sense. Start with the center tap. Okay, so in this case, I got an issue that's upstream here, and figuring out where that is upstream might require additional clicks. So we're going to take a click here. Oh, and I click there. So where's my problem? My problem's my fuse. So 3 clicks, and we'll grade that, and we're still got a 3-point gain, so we're good on that side. Next power supply, let's go AC sense. We'll take a look at our center tap. Remember, you could also start on the primary side, but we're about halfway through the circuit here clickwise. So if we start the center tap, you kind of got 50-50 either way with where you're going. So in this one, we have a 20 volt center tap and 10 volts. That's good. Let's go to a DC sense, see what our voltage regulator's putting out there. Voltage regulator is putting 6 volts out. Okay, so I got a diode issue. And which diode is it? It's a gamble. I'm going to double click D1. We're going to see what D1 looks like. D1 was the one. So I could have guessed D1 and I could have saved myself 2 points, but it's really a true gamble. So I'm going to grade that selection, and we're right there. So let's see our next one here, AC sense. I'm going to start with my center tap. I got a good center tap output. Okay, and center tap output, let's take a look at a DC sense. Go to your voltage regulator. Voltage regulator is reading 13 and it's supposed to be reading 8. So what do we have going on in here? We have a situation where it looks like my voltage regulator is shorted, because that 13 is what I'd be getting here at the diode. So I'm going to call this the voltage regulator, and we'll grade that selection. And it's actually honestly the highest score I've pulled off of this. We've got a 3-point gain there, and I'm ready to score that. So you score that, get your certificate, store it on disk, and then print your certificate out. So in working through this, work through it systematically. Use educated guessing and knowing what each component is supposed to do, and what that might look like on the voltmeter. Again, I highly encourage you to look at a regular, normal circuit without flaws, and that's what's really going to truly help you pinpoint where things are. And keep in mind the function or role of the capacitor, and how that might affect the output. Also remember that if one diode fails, you still have another diode, so you might still see something that looks good. Best of luck as you work through this.